Double entry system.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on the time you're actually listening to this video. So, welcome to our first class of accounting mobile, and today's topic is the double entry system. This is actually the first thing that every student that is aspiring, or every student that wants to know more about account or accounting should consider. So this double entry system, like simply put, you just like knowing the items that are to be debited and the items that are also to be credited, and also posting them in the right account. Because the number one rule of the double entry system is what? For every debit entry there must be a what? Corresponding credit entry in another account. So that rule should actually also be in our minds or be in our heads. So now let me just do a quick recap on the definition. Okay, today in our world we make mistakes of sometimes treating a receiver as a giver and vice versa. That is what giver as a receiver, but that's not so. There is a fundamental rule of double entry bookkeeping which states that for every debit entry there must be a corresponding credit entry in another account and vice versa. This is already what I've already explained. So let's take for instance, I received 50,000 naira from a student for the training on the basics of accounting. When that happens, it must be observed that the student is giving me the money and I'm receiving the money. Okay, let me state something here. Whenever, for example, let's say you are giving me 1 million naira. I'm saying that because I know by God's grace, you will also start giving me 1 million naira. Oh. Amen. So let's just say you are giving me 1 million naira, or let me just increase it to 1 billion naira. Let me say you are giving me 1 billion naira. So in that process of giving me that 1 billion naira, in my account I'll say what's a credit alert, right? Yes. And your account you see what's a debit alert. But in this, whenever as a student, a teacher, entrepreneur, anyone that like has that opportunity to actually what prepare accounts, would not do what we feel okay, we will not do what has been done already in our account. Let me make this a bit clearer. Your account was what debited of 1 million naira, right? My account was what credited of that 1 million naira. So whenever you want to prepare the account for me and the account for you, let's say my name is Effie, so let's say you want to prepare Effie's account and you want to prepare, let's say your name is Shola or your name is Gideon. Let's use Gideon. So you prefer Efe's account and you prefer Gideon's account. So in that process of actually preparing my account, you are not going to put credit. You're not going to credit me. You're going to what? Debit me. Why is that? Because my account already got a what? A credit alert. So for us to fulfill the DES, is also known as DES, double entry system approach, or the double entry system rule, we have to actually do what? We have to actually debit my account to make the credited alert in my phone balance. Do you understand? So whenever you are going to prepare an account, don't think it in the way that, oh, okay, because I receive a debit alert or because I receive a credit alert, my account will be credited. No. If you receive a credit alert in the real world, just know that your account will be what debited when you are preparing your account. Do you understand? That's good. So when that happens, it must be observed that the student is giving me the money and I'm receiving. Ordinarily, the student's account will be debited and mine credited. But when preparing personal accounts, the student's account will be credited and mine debited. I already explained this. Do you understand? Because the rule states that you debit the receiver and you will credit the giver. So the student's account will be what's credited and my account will be what debited. So whenever any transaction or any entry is given to you, you should not start stressing yourself by putting yourself in actually that position. Do you understand? You just have to actually understand the various rules of accounting practices. For example, another rule states that what you debit the receiver and what credit the giver. So when you already have that in your mind, you just say, oh my god, okay, this is what it means. It means that anyone that is giving the money is to be what credited, and anybody that is receiving the money is to be what debited. So you should not be putting your mind mind in what's happening in the real world. Do you understand? Because you are dealing with accounts here, and the main purpose of accounting really is to make sure that your bank statement, there is something in accounting that is known as what bank reconciliation statement, and that actually states that it helps to reconcile the differences between the what cash book and the bank statement. So that's what accounting is about. That's what DES simple is about. DES system rather is about. It helps us to reconcile, make sure that the debit accounts that we are seeing in our balance sheet correspond with the credits allowed that we see in our accounts. Do you understand? Like if, for example, like I stated earlier, we see that 1 million in your account debited. You have already seen that 1 million in your account debited, right? Yes. So you have to see a credit amount to make it balance, because one of the reasons of double entry system is that you make your debit and credit balance, which also leads to trial balance, which even though it's not in this class, but I'm just like giving you a brief understanding of different aspects of what we'll be teaching in our class. So now I already explained, now your student is going to be what credited and my account will be what debited. Why? Because there's a rule that says to us credit the giver and debit the receiver. So if you say I receive 50,000 naira from a student, me FA, I am receiving the money, so I'm going to be what debited. Why will I be debited? Because they said I should be debited. Why? Debit the receiver. Then from a student, whenever they give you this, you put two things in your mind: who is giving, who is receiving. And if they say from a student, that means a student is the one giving. It's just like, let's use us again. You are Gideon, I'm Jessica, or I'm FA. Let me use FA. So let's say you are Gideon, I'm FA, and they're now saying, okay, I'm not, the question there is I received 10,000 from you. I received 10,000 from you. So are you giving or receiving? You are giving me the money, right? Because I'm receiving it for you. Or let's not use accounting here. Let's use, for example, you are giving your sister received a bag from you. So who is giving the bag? Is it you or your sister? It's you, because you are giving the bag and she's receiving the bag. So if for example you're actually going to prepare an account there, you are going to what? Debit your account, or it's you are giving, okay, yes, you are going to debit her account. Why? Because she's receiving it from you. Why? You are going to be credited. Why? Because you are the one giving. Do you understand? So let's see the continuation. Okay, there are two main steps to consider while posting entries. The first is to what? Identify the giver and the receivers. That's the what? Creditors and debtors. And number two is to what? Post them appropriately in their respective accounts. So these are actually the two steps on my research and also on my thinking that I feel is very important when trying to maybe create an account or while trying to post an account. So let me explain the first step. The first step now, identify the giver and the receivers, right? That's the creditors and the debtors. Whenever a transaction is being given to you to prepare, or an entry is being given to you to actually prepare, the first thing you should bear in mind is to identify the person that is going to be receiving the money, or receiving the goods, or receiving the service, and the other person that will be giving a service. So that's for you to identify the what? Givers and the receivers. That's number one. And number two is to post them appropriately in their respective accounts. So some of us may be thinking, they'll be like, why, since we've already identified the givers and the receivers, it's very, very easy for us to post it. That's true for some people, but for some people, they may actually still forget. Maybe, for example, there's a transaction that is in place and you are to be credited and to be debited. They already know that, okay, you are actually to be credited and I'm actually to be debited. But while preparing the account, I don't know, maybe they may actually forget, or they may forget to actually prepare or credit one account and forget to credit the other, debit the other account, or they may debit one account and forget to credit the other account. So another thing to put in mind is first to actually understand. The first one is to understand and identify the givers and receivers, while the second one is actually first to post them appropriately. So note, on no account should an item that is to be debited credited, because it will lead to a reversal of entry, which may or may not affect the agreement of the trial balance. In our class for trial balance, I'll actually state and explain what this means, but because I already wrote it here as notes, let me just explain it. There are errors that affect trial balance, and there are some errors that do not affect the trial balance. So, for example, whenever let's say there's a complete, in this state here, I'm talking about an error called reversal of entries. There is an error that affects, the error that affects is called partial reversal of entry, while the error that does not affect is what is called complete reversal of entry. So in the state that, for example, the item that's supposed to be debited, you credit it, and the item that's supposed to be credited, you debit it, that account is not actually going to what affect the trial balance. But in the state where, for example, item that's supposed to be debited, you credit it, and an item that's supposed to be credited, you still credit it, is going to affect. I'm going to explain this deeply in the what in trial balance class. But in the meantime, you should not just try and put, you should just record accounts respectively and appropriately. You should record it appropriately. Most importantly, you should not say, okay, because I feel that this error will not affect the trial balance, let me just do what auntie says. No. So now, example, if Mr. Ayo gives Mr. Aldo 50,000 naira to record this entry, you have to first, A is what you have to first identify the giver and the receiver, and B, you have to record what the entries using a ledger. So let's see it. If Mr. Ayo gives Mr. Aldo 50,000 naira. So now this is the example, right? The first thing that should actually be in your mind is that who is what giving, who is receiving. Why? Because that's our number one stage, to identify the giver and the receiver. Okay, so the first one is to identify who is what giving and who is what receiving. So who is giving? Mr. Ayo what is giving, while Mr. Aldo is receiving. I used that example in our first class. I was in this, I think it's our first class. I was like, if for example you give your sister a shoe, who is giving the shoe? You are giving the shoe. Who is receiving the shoe? Your sister is receiving the shoe. So that's how it is here. Mr. Ayo is giving Mr. Aldo. So Mr. Aldo is receiving the money, and Mr. Ayo is what giving the money, right? So because this is done, we have already what identified the giver and the receiver, and which is debtors and creditors. Because I said in our class, or let me just, since I already stated it here, I said what the givers are to be what credited and the receivers are to be what debited. This should be in your mind. This should be in our minds. It should be in our minds. So now we have already said that Mr. Ayo is giving, so that means Mr. Ayo will be what credited, and Mr. Aldo is receiving, so he'll be what debited. So Mr. Ayo is the giver, Mr. Aldo is the receiver. So we have done number one by what identifying the givers and the receivers. So now the B is to what record the entries using a ledger or appropriately. Yeah, we already know that Mr. Ayo is giver, so that means he's a what? He's a creditor. And Mr. Aldo is what? Receiving, so he's a what? He's a debtor. So because Mr. Ayo is giving to a creditor, Mr. Aldo is receiving a debtor. For every account, especially ledger accounts that you're actually preparing, debit side goes to be to the what? Left hand side, while credit side goes to what? Right hand side. I forgot to put debit and credit here, so don't forget to what? Name the account, and the last one is your naira sign. This is what you should understand. So now I said Mr. Ayo is what? Mr. Ayo is giving, right? So it's a creditor. You're going to credit his account. So now pay very deep attention to what I'm about to say now. So Mr. Ayo, you're going to put his particulars as here, Mr. Aldo. See, let me make the instance now, make an example, a brief example. Okay, if you give me money, right, your account will be what? Debited, and mine will be what? Credited, right? So because that is made, will you see debit alert in your account now? If let's say Access or OP or Money Points, let's just use OP, because I think OP is actually round the world. Okay, not like round the world, but anyways, OP, let's use OP. So now let's say for example, you give me something, you give me money. So your OP account will be what? Your OP account, let's say, is debited, right? So why you are saying debit alert? You see debit alert with your name? No, you won't. You see debit alert with what? With my name. Debit alert with my name, right? You see, for example, you can see your account will be debited with 50,000 naira, Jessica, or Efe. That's what you see, right? You won't see debit alert with your own name. Only if, for example, you are transferring that money to your other account. But if, for example, you're transferring to another person, we are going to see it to that person's name. So that's how it is here. Whenever you are preparing Mr. Ayo's account, you're not going to see Mr. Ayo here. You're going to see Mr. Audu, and you're going to put the 50,000 naira here on the credit side, not on the debit side. And the same for Mr. Audu. You are going to put it debit because why? Mr. Audu is receiving, so he's debited, right? Receiver debit. So Mr. Audu, you are going to put Mr. Ayo. Sorry, you're going to write 50,000. So now this is what I want you to pay a very, very, very strict example to, or very, very strict adherence to. Let me state this. So most at times, one of the reasons why some students may not actually really get a complete mark is because they don't, or they fail to balance the account. So this transaction, this was only a one transaction. This was like a one-time transaction. So there were not like accounts on the credit side or debit side or credit side or debit side. It was just in one particular side because it was a one-time transaction. So because this is made, you have to put your balance carried down and your balance brought down. Your balance carried down and your balance brought down. Balance brought down is what you are starting with in the new year. Balance carried down is what you want to start with, but you cannot start with yet because you have to move it. Let me explain. So now the amount here is what 50,000 naira, right? The amount here is what 50,000 naira. So when we want to balance our account, you have to put the 50,000 naira as balance carried down here on the debit side and put balance brought down here. That's just all. But the reason I'm saying this is because sometimes you may have some transaction that maybe here is 20,000, here is 10,000. So your balance carried down will not be 20,000. Your balance carried down will be 10,000. Because just imagine here, you total everything in the credit side is what 20,000, and you total everything here, you see 10,000. So you have to put 10,000 here to make it balance, right? So because you put 10,000 here, that's 10,000 be called what? Balance carried down. So by the time you bring it as balance brought down, that 10,000, that's what you're going to start with in a new year. So that's the same thing with what Mr. Audu's account. That's the exact same thing I said. It's just that Mr. Audu is to be debited, Mr. Ayo is to be credited. So that's all about this double entry system. But there's something I actually want to advise. Whenever you want to prepare a ledger account, or they tell you to prepare an account, you must actually be very, very, very attentive to actually know the things, because the little things can actually fail a lot of students. So number one is what your debit and credit. Don't forget to put these two baby things here. They may seem baby, but they can actually take a lot of marks. Just imagine you are preparing like 20 accounts, and double this debit and credit is 1 mark. Is 1 mark each. That means you have lost like 1 mark for double debit and credit. That means you have lost like 20 marks. Do you understand? So that's how I actually calculate whenever I write exams, or when I've written exams in the past. I actually calculate. I'm just like, if for example double entry is 1 mark, and I'm to prepare like 20 accounts, 30 accounts, that means I've lost like 30 marks. It may seem very little, but it's actually very, very big. That's a big mark loss. So number one thing for us to actually put in our mind is our debit and credit, and also our name, the name of our accounts. Name of our accounts, we should not forget to put the name of our account. Mr. Ayo, Mr. Audu, we should not forget. Then the third thing is what we should not forget to put our Naira sign. Yes, sometimes it may actually be dollars, it may be pounds, it may be Ghana cedis. Just not exactly what they told you to do. Do you understand? So there's something I actually want to state again. If for example your space is too small, let's say you are to prepare an account and your space is too small in the Naira sign when you have to put your amount there, you can just do this. You can put a comma here and put 3 zeros. Let's say you are using 50 million, or you're using 50,000. By the time you put this comma and 3 zeros, the examiner will know that okay, this person is actually stating that these 3 zeros comes after what you're about to put. Say for example, all the things they are giving, like here is what 50,000. As you have put these 3 zeros here, you don't need to put 50,000. You just have to put what 50. But make sure this thing is very bold, so they can see that okay, these are actually 3 zeros, comma 3 zeros. Do you understand? But most at times most at times when you have space, especially when you are writing professional exams, they tend to give you a lot of space. They tend to give you a lot of extra sheets, a lot of extra booklets. So you don't need to start saying that, okay, because I was taught this, let me show them that I know what I'm doing. Actually write the 50,000 naira in full. Even if it's 50 million naira, write it in full if you know that you can actually do that and you have enough space. But if you don't, I'm just saying this in the sense that maybe you don't have enough space, and it's not, and maybe, for example, I feel for every exam there's an extra sheet that they will actually allocate to students. But even in that process, you're like the shy type, but you should not be shy of these exams. But if in that process you may not really want to go and take extra sheet, or the extra sheet is not made available, you can just put comma here and 3 zeros. But I actually advise most students I've taught to actually put it full. So this is going to be the end, or this is the end of our class on trial balance. If you have any question to ask concerning what we have taught now, I'll really appreciate you do so before we move to our next topic. I think our next topic, wait, did I say trial balance? This is our last topic on double entry system. So this is our last topic on double entry system. So in case there's any question it is you want to ask, or anything you're actually finding a bit difficult pertaining double entry system, you can just reach out to me before we move to trial balance. Thank you, love you, and God bless you.